Hello and welcome to the stream. Hello and welcome to the stream.
Welcome to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from May 20th, 1996.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening, or good morning, as the case may be, and welcome to another edition of the best in live overnight talk radio, because this radio station cares enough to have live talk radio on. This is Coast to Coast AM, from the Tahitian and Hawaiian Islands, out over flyover country, to the Caribbean and the U.S., Virgin Islands, south into South America, north to the pole, and worldwide on the internet. Good to be here. I'm Art Bell. All right, I've got a lot of things I want to cover this evening with you, and the first of which is to update the Roswell Arts Parts story. The testing on the parts continues, and it took a very, very strange twist this week. You may recall that Linda Moulton Howe got those parts tested by a scientist at a major university, and they tested to be 99 point something or another percent aluminum. You may recall Linda said aluminum, 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 which is hard to say actually 3 or 4 times. Well, it turns out that, and remember now that though it was on the outside, they were tested with spectrography, with an electronic scanning microscope, and all the rest of it. The pieces in question that were tested, 6 millimeters times 6 millimeters times 1 millimeter thick, if 100% aluminum, should have weighed 97 milligrams apiece. They made a sudden, surprising discovery that, guess what? They weigh 160 milligrams each. That's the original weight. They went back and they checked a second time, and they said, how can this be? Now, it may be that there is some very, very bad alloy, and it's all buried inside. But the spectrography showed there was nothing but aluminum on the outside. They cut one open with my permission and found what seems to be solid aluminum inside. They're going to do some more spectrography and so forth and so on the pieces now, but they have a great mystery. In other words, these things weigh twice what they should weigh if they are, as reported and tested, 100% aluminum. So right now we have a great mystery, and we have no idea what these things are. Tune in next week as the second part of the test is revealed. But right now, we've got a big mystery on our hands, and nobody can answer why. The U.S. Supreme Court has overturned the state of Colorado's constitutional amendment that was to forbid the passage of any law which protects homosexual rights. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court said the whole thing, in fact, is unconstitutional. It is considered a victory for homosexual rights. The vote, 6-3, the majority opinion, said such a provision, single gays out, so much so that it cannot be explained by anything but animosity for gays. The minority view said the amendment sought simply to preserve traditional moral values. And so one might ask whether this marks, well, what does this mark? Does it signal freedom? Even though you're not gay, that you would believe this signals individual freedom for gays to eventually marry, for gays to go into the military without having to participate in Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Or does it mark the day the walls in America began to fall? Which do you think? I watched 60 Minutes Sunday, and there was the single most shocking story that I can ever recall hearing. About a nation committing suicide. You're not going to believe, if you didn't see the show, you're probably not going to believe some of the stats. I'm going to Moscow this summer in August. And it's got to give one... before one goes. I'm going anyway because I really want to see it. There are going to be elections next month in Russia. Right now, the communist candidate is leading. Life expectancy for Russian males over the last 7 years, folks, has gone from 65 years of age down to 58 years of age. Soon to 53 years of age by the year 2005. This kind of drop is unparalleled in modern history. 800,000 more Russians die than are born every year. Maternity wards are half empty. They've got 2 abortions in Russia for every birth. Only 1 in 4 children in Russia are born healthy. The country is literally, socially disintegrating in front of their very eyes. It gets worse. In industrially polluted areas, there are many of them, 40%, I said 40% of all the births are with defects, mostly mental. God. The average consumption by Russians of vodka equals 1/2 bottle per day per person. 99% of all injuries treated in hospitals are due to alcohol consumption. 50% of the water in Russia is polluted. New and old diseases are on the rise. Drugs everywhere. 1 in 6 in Russia will become drug addicts. 1 in 6. One woman was seen saying, "Democracy is killing us." It seems to me this is a country poised for what? Revolution? A revolution at the ballot box, going back to communism, where the old saying was, we pretended to work, they pretended to pay us. There are a few rich people in Russia. Basically, though, the poverty level in Russia is apparently just through the roof. And so it's the wrong phrase to say I'm looking forward to seeing it. But I am. I want to see if it's really this bad, so I will indeed, with some trepidation, go to Moscow. But it sounds incredible. Have you ever heard such statistics? It is virtual. A national suicide. The president renewing MFN status for China. Does so with blessing Bob Dole, who also wants it. Speaking of Bob Dole, renewing MFN status for China. Does so with blessing Bob Dole. Trepidation, go to Moscow. but it sounds incredible. Basically, though, the poverty level in Russia, there are a few rich people in Russia. Basically, though, the poverty level in Russia is apparently just through the roof. And so it's the wrong phrase to say I'm looking forward to seeing it. But I am. I want to see if it's really this bad, so I will indeed, with some trepidation, go to Moscow. But it sounds incredible. Have you ever heard such statistics? It is virtually a national suicide. The president renewing MFN status for China, also with blessing Bob Dole, who also wants it. Speaking of Bob Dole, again, a lot of talk about why he quit over the weekend. Why do you think he did? To spend more time campaigning, to distance himself from Newt Gingrich, because it's time to go up or out. I'll tell you, Bob Dole is probably going to have to separate himself in some way from Newt Gingrich and the Republican revolution now bogged down, or he's going to have a problem. And he does not seem inclined to do it. The Democrats are going to have a heyday with it. They're going to call it the Dole-Gingrich campaign. The admiral who committed suicide, Admiral Borda, was covered over the weekend, and we learned the genesis of the story. It was a group called the National Security News Service, actually two guys. They were guests on Meet the Press. The way the whole thing began was they requested a Freedom of Information document on the admiral. They concluded he was not entitled to wear the V Medal Award, which means combat in Vietnam. They broke the news that the admiral was wearing the medals, wearing medals he had not earned. Somehow Newsweek got hold of it. They were to have a 2:30 p.m. appointment with the admiral. That is the day he committed suicide. Now, various people in the Navy have said the admiral was indeed authorized, had spent time on destroyers in the war zone, in combat missions, and was entitled to wear them. Others have said no. But my question is, was it proper for the National Security News Service, and then I guess Newsweek to follow up, to make this into a story? Or should it, is it one of those things that they just should have dropped? Listen, I've got something really weird, really strange, that I want you all to investigate for me and give me an opinion on. I stumbled into a very strange webpage called EON-4. Eon, I guess you pronounce it, -4. And this is an extensive webpage that claims we have made contact with extraterrestrials. And I'm going to read you a little bit of it. I know it's going to sound strange. But what I had Keith do was put a link up at the top of my webpage to EON-4 so that you can see it, so that you can make your own judgments about what is there. I'm going to read you a little bit of one of their statements of EON-4. We have made contact. On August 13th, 1992, the META, that's Multi-Channel Extraterrestrial Array, radio telescope at Harvard University perceived a strong, narrow-band signal at 2840 megahertz. Unlike previous so-called events, this signal had an originating point less than 0.25 parsecs outside our own solar system. Observable distortion at this originating point led to the supposition this was the mouth of a radio-based Nexus navigator, spoken reference, and then they go on and on and on. On October 20th, 1992, a full-fledged mathematics-based message was received from a highly advanced civilization situated at a far distant location in the universe. The first interaction between humankind and an extraterrestrial life form had begun. Since that day, and continuing through the present, a steadily growing share of the world's scientific community has been privy to the regular open exchange of scientific and sociological data that's been taking place between ourselves and the EBE culture. Not unexpected, much of the science and technology this culture discusses with us exceeds our own current level of comprehension. Language has never been a barrier, though we've been able to understand only the most basic rudiments of their complex forms of communication. This life form has had no problem receiving information from us in any human language, from English to Singanese, and responding in kind, blah, 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 in other words, in the same language. 14 months after initial contact was made, the Society provided us with instructions to develop and construct a device that has allowed the transfer of physical matter through the RBNN, whatever that is. They acknowledged arrival of physical matter on June 7th, 1994, and it goes on and on and on. This is an extensive web page with ostensibly all kinds of scientific participants, and it claims, basically, that we have established communication with another life form. Now, this may be total bunk, but if it is very carefully constructed total bunk, and looks real. So I'll say that all of this, they say, Eon 4, is a project ongoing at Area 51. That's right near me. So what I would ask you to do is to go to my web page, and courtesy of Keith, you will see at the very top a link to Eon 4. There is a classified area of it and a supposed public area. Go in there if you would, please, and find out what the hell this is all about. If anybody can rip it apart, I mean, to me, it looks real. But there have been very elaborate hoaxes certainly done before, and will be again. That it may be certainly may be a hoax, but it impressed me sufficiently to have you go and investigate. In addition, I sent the people at Eon 4 actually several pieces of email requesting an interview, and I would ask you to do the same for me. Let us get these people on the air and tell us what this is all about. So again, it's right at the top of my website. Go in there, jump with the link, and go take a look at the complete text and the project. I mean, you've got project personnel listed and all kinds of things. It's incredible. You can only wonder what's on the classified side. So take a look. My website is www.artbell.com. Here's a kind of an interesting story from Toronto. A research team plans to exhume 7 bodies from, get this, permafrost in hopes of finding what caused a global epidemic that killed 20 million people in 1918 and 19. The 1918 epidemic was called Spanish fly at the time, but scientists didn't have any way to identify exactly what it was. Marked by sudden fever, chills, headache, malaise, muscle pain, pneumonia, and rapid death, it killed more people than all the fighting in World War I. The Canadian team believes the deadly virus might still be lurking in the lungs of the frozen bodies preserved in nature's deep freeze on a Norwegian Arctic island. They say special care is needed so the microbes don't revive once freed from their icy storage. Now, I wonder how many of you think this is a good idea. Here you've got one of the biggest plagues in history, and the scientists think they're going to dig some people up and get good, healthy samples of this horrible virus. Sounds like a plot from a science fiction book or something, doesn't it? All right, well, I'm not done. I've got more. I've got quite a bit on the Freemen this morning, so we'll get to that. Then we'll get the lines open, for it is unscreened, unpredictable, spontaneous talk radio coming up next.
This is Premier Network. That was Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM on this Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from May 20th, 1996.
Yes, the Russian story hit a lot of people. Here's one of them, Sean in Yucca Valley, arguing with for me, the most remarkable thing about that report on 60 Minutes on Russia is that the whole country hasn't already violently exploded. The ability of the Russian people to endure suffering is beyond belief. It really is. Well, I guess, we had a couple of close calls. An asteroid came within 279 miles of Earth. We always find out about this just when it's occurring. That's close, folks. Not quite as close as the moon, but close. We got a 4-day warning this time. We could have used more. Would 4 days have been enough to stop it? They say the next time it comes around, it may get pulled in by Earth's gravity and could hit. We're getting an awful lot of asteroids, an awful lot of comets, an awful lot of things out there recently that seem to be getting closer and more frequent. Anybody notice that one? The Freeman, I want to cover some on that. The 57th day now of the standoff, in fact longer now than Waco. They had more talks today, very heated at times, in other words, yelling at each other, and they got nowhere. State Senator Duke walked out of one of the meetings. Apparently he's getting frustrated as well. Present 100 FBI agents. 22 people they believe inside, 3 children. Bo Gritz spoke at the Ontario Airport Marriott Hotel in Ontario, California on Friday and talked some about Freeman. Said it was, he tried very hard to convince them to surrender to avoid bloodshed. Said he thought Randy Weaver would have been good to have with him to show the Freeman what heartbreak and suffering they and their loved ones could experience if the standoff comes to a violent end. Mr. Gritz says that a so-called Gang of 4 made everyone take holy oaths to remain in the compound and that the oath would be violated if anybody tried to leave. So, some of these people are being, at this point, apparently held, he feels, against their will. Quite remarkable. That is a true story. Did anybody see the other segment on 60 Minutes? The Turner Diaries. All about Dr. William Pierce, the physicist turned radical. 200 200,000 copies have gone out so far. Now, the Turner Diaries would be a book that allegedly Timothy McVeigh regarded as his Bible. In it, the good doctor, says we ought to get rid of all the blacks and the Jews in America in order to get back the America we have lost. It has become the Bible of the far extreme right. In one chapter of the Turner Diaries, a fictional character, militia person, drives a vehicle full of a fertilizer bomb into the FBI building, the basement of the FBI building in Washington, D.C., and blows it into little pieces. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? The good doctor thinks, quote, if we don't like what we see, we should do something about it, end quote. He said, America, our America, is disintegrating in front of our eyes because of race mixing. Race mixing. He most admires Adolf Hitler, called blacks rapists, thugs, and cannibals, and theorized when the balloon goes up, blacks will be eating people, cannibalizing people. This was William Pierce, author of the Turner Diaries. What a strange, weird character he is. How many of you think America is disintegrating because of the mixture of races? Well, I've got a lot more, but not time for it, so I'll just leave it right there. That's plenty of food for thought, I suppose. So whatever you want to talk about is fair game. The lines are open. The numbers are as follows. First time callers to the program. Area code 702-727-1222. The wild card lines 702-727-1295. West of the Rockies 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies it's 1-800-825-5033. Outside the good old USA, you can call us toll-free. Get the USA Direct Access number or call the USA AT&T operator and have her call 800-893-0903. And I don't care where you are in the world, it won't cost you a penny. That's 800-893-0903. All right, folks, it'll be the first call of the week. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Hello.
Yeah, Art?
Yes.
Let me turn down the
Turn it
radio.
on. There you go.
Yeah, this is cool, being the first caller.
Yes, indeed. For the week. Where are you?
Kansas City, Missouri.
All right.
Kevin.
Yes, Kevin.
First of all, I want to find out what that was on the opening theme.
My opening theme?
Yeah, tonight.
Was a Midnight Express.
Okey-doke. Also, did you see last week the Doctor Who movie?
No.
That's a good one. That was what your alien caller from Scaros was.
Really?
Yeah, it's a reference from one of the big baddies from Doctor Who. It's a race of robots.
No kidding.
Anyway, that's about it.
See you later.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Good morning, Art. Buzz the Radio Spy.
Yes, how you doing, Buzz?
Oh, long time no talk to.
Indeed.
Yes, and one of the things you mentioned is about the Eon 4.
You bet.
And you did mention about host pages. And through Geesework, my host page that I set up on April Fool's Day drew a lot of paranoid people. So there are some out there.
Buzz, have you gone to look at this yet?
No, I haven't, but I will as soon as the rush dies down, probably about 4 a.m.
I see. Well, I would appreciate sincerely your input. Now, it may be some sort of commercial venture, it may be a big hoax, whatever it is, it's done very, very well.
I like looking at well-done pages. It gives me my creative, because I like, the creative input on how to write a good page.
Well, I was surfing about and found it, and I've never seen anything like it.
Topic 2 of 3, are you going to come and visit us this morning?
Come and visit you.
On the IRC.
Oh, I may do that, yes.
Alrighty. And number 3, about what happened in Colorado.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sort of glad that we can now extend full citizenship to all law-abiding Americans. And maybe if this all dies down, the gays and lesbians won't be on our face so much.
Well, I wonder about that.
Well, there is a gay activist who has a weekly talk show here. And that's his view from the gay community. And from the gay acquaintances the gay and lesbian acquaintances that I have, that seems to be what they want from the more moderate end. Just give us our rights, leave us alone, quit picking on us, and we'll leave you alone.
Well, I've always been more or less, Buzz, an advocate of that anyway. As long as people leave me alone, I'm inclined to leave them alone.
Me too. And if you have a comment, I'll take that off the air about the Ruby Ridge movie.
All right, thank you. It seemed concocted to that's the best way to put it. Not serve the purpose of engendering any sympathy for Mr. Weaver and his family. That was my take on it. Iraq now allowed to sell $1 billion in oil every 90 days for food and medicine. It should lower gas prices here in the U.S. Oh, we'll see. Do you think the $1 billion every quarter will actually end up going for food and medicine? That's a big question. First time caller line, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Russell calling from South Lake Tahoe.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to possibly suggest a guest for your show, Jacques Cousteau. He visited South Lake Tahoe a number of years ago and spent about 3 days here and brought a submarine down. And his statement when he was finished was that the world is not ready what I found. The world is not ready for what I found in Lake Tahoe.
It's strange. I've heard a lot of stories about things being in Lake Tahoe. And I don't know what it is down there, but there apparently is something.
Many divers that go into Lake Tahoe will not dive there again because they say it's a very scary experience.
Yep. Well, it's also very cold.
Yeah.
I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you. Jacques Cousteau would be a lot of fun to have as a guest. Do you think he would open up and tell us what lies beneath the generally tranquil surface and very clear water of Lake Tahoe? Something down there. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Turn your radio off, please.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I wanted to find out if there's any relevance in ARCO Advanced Power Technologies and with their involvement, or they had been involved early on in the HARP project. That the purpose of their being involved more than anything else was to sell oil to the HARP project because it would involve only having to sell oil directly right there in Alaska rather than having to transport it any further away than absolutely necessary to reduce their cost to make maximum profit.
The last word I heard on HARP was that it had been at least temporarily shut down.
Right.
I'm not sure that's accurate, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, the last that I had heard is that funding had been froze, but they had still gone ahead with testing and that. So where the money or funds came from, or whether they had funds left over in reserve from what had been approved and given to them in prior time, is the only thing I could figure, or whether private interest behind it is actually funding it to accelerate their program.
Yes, I'm not sure, and I can't tell you about Arco.
I see.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and have a good morning. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, how you doing, Art?
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Robert from Yuba City, California.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, I got about 100 things I want to talk about, but there's 3 important ones.
All right.
Okay, first one is, I don't know if you heard about it, but here in California, in Yuba City, we had a guy kill an 8-year-old boy. I heard it on the news.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a registered sex offender. They let him out of prison.
Right.
Kind of makes me a little bit upset for the fact that a lot of sex offenders, these child sex offenders, out, and they're putting people away for smoking marijuana. That kind of upsets me. I don't know how you feel about it personally. Second is that I think somebody in Pennsylvania is picking up on your idea about poisoning the drug.
Well, we've had reports of heroin.
Yeah, that bad heroin bag.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing, oh man, you were talking about it.
You forgot.
That guy that killed himself?
Yes, Admiral Borden.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, most people don't kill themselves by shooting themselves in the chest.
Well, that was my first take on it, too. It's unlikely.
Yeah, because if you're going to kill yourself, there's much more positive ways of doing that.
Well,
Especially when you're trying to point a gun back at me.
I would substitute effective rather than positive.
Okay.
Effective, yeah, as in blowing the top of your head off, of course. But I am fairly well satisfied that it was a suicide. You know what I'm interested in more than anything else? If you had been the one who got onto the story about the controversy regarding his wearing of the V medals, would you have pursued the story? Was it a legitimate story? Or do you think you would have regrets for having pursued that story in view of his suicide? West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hey Art, how are you doing? This is Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I have a couple of comments about the Chupacabra.
Yes.
I have 2 theories. One would be that the Mexican government is trying to do some kind of advertisement to take away some other ideas from the people down there.
Well, that is a theory that is ascribed to every big story that comes along, not just in Mexico, but here too.
Okay, I know my people, we are pretty, we believe too much sometimes in these kind of things and talk too much about it, but, and my other theory is this could be something that, some kind of animal that's living, close to in the center of the earth, closer to there.
And slowly coming up through holes and getting people, huh? Mr. Bell, I first heard of the Chupacabra about 2 weeks ago. I'm a truck driver. I had returned home when my wife said that some goats had been attacked a couple of miles from our home. This was televised locally in San Antonio. At first I thought the animal, Chupacabra, was a wolf. An animal. Was surprised to find out otherwise, mainly because I had seen something that may have been this animal. I was leaving Wichita Falls, Texas, headed south on US 287. It was night. I barely left the city when I saw something descending into the light above the streetlights. I was scared at first because I thought it was a crop duster making a crash landing. Then I thought it was a hang glider. When it had descended into the light, I could see it was a bird. Let me tell you, it was huge. 15 to 20 foot wingspan. Looked kind of like an owl to me. But because I was trying to dodge the thing, I can't tell you for sure what the thing was. You might see if they had any goat sucking in that area in the last couple of months. That's from Harold. Harold, who chupacabra he believes. The reports continue to come in. Over the weekend, front page in the LA Times. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
All right, Bill.
Yes.
John from Youngstown, I called you last week. I spent 16 days last year in Russia with the Russian family, and I covered 1,800 miles by train. What do you want to know?
Well, what do you want to tell us?
Well, the prices of most food commodities are 80% of what they are here.
Apparently, that's still nearly 100% more than the Russian people can afford.
A Russian doctor makes $40 a month in equivalent, you know, in rubles.
Yes, well...
My Russian friend's mother works full-time at daycare. She makes $21 a month, and 18 goes for rent.
Well, okay, thanks. One of the doctors they showed on 60 Minutes made $120 a month. And they asked him, how can you live on that? He said the way all Russians do. Barely. We'll be back.
The trip back in time continues with Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM. More Somewhere in Time coming up. Premier Network presents Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from May 20th, 1996.
And I've got a web bulletin for you. You've got to take a look at this. I don't know if it's a hoax. It may well be. I would imagine it is. If it isn't, it's big news. If it's a hoax, it's one of the more elaborate, well-done professional hoaxes I've ever seen. Go to my webpage on the net. That's www.artbell.com. There you will find a link at the top of the page to something called EON4. EON-4. You take a look and you tell me what you think. I took a look and it blew my mind. Here's the facts on it. Art, EON4 is wild. I logged on when I saw your page this evening. The classified section is reached by an easy registration. Optional email updates available. The claim is, we've sent an explorer team at the invitation of the alien sentients. This team has reached the vicinity of their world, but with the loss of the team leader. It's hard to know what to think of the site and its story. The line is something like a video game, but there's nothing to do but read and think. Woo. That's comment number 1, and I'm sure we'll get more. Take a look. You let me know. I found it. Hi, Art. I checked out the EON4 site. I don't know, but it seems like someone's sci-fi story presented in web format, and the Apple sponsorship adds to the suspicion. Still, even if it's not real, it's pretty cool. Thanks for putting it on your page. Mark Cansico, San Francisco. Again, I reflect back on 2 60-minute stories over the weekend that I thought were incredible. Finally, they're doing some good stuff again. The story on Russia was staggering. I'm going to Moscow in August, and after seeing it, I go with more trepidation than I had in the first place. That place is just disintegrating. Actually. Now, the cruise that I'm going on is going to stop at St. Petersburg, and I'm going to go ahead and take it, which is beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and risk my neck and take the optional trip to Moscow, because I want to see it for myself. But boy, what they had on that show over the weekend. I wonder if you saw it. Also, the Turner Diaries. And the Turner Diaries appear to be the Bible for right-wing extremists, like Timothy McVeigh. There was a chapter in there about somebody who blew up a federal building, FBI building, with a fertilizer bomb by driving into the basement. This was in Washington, D.C. And it parrots I guess McVeigh's crime, parrots this book almost chapter and verse even down to the makeup of the fertilizer bomb. So they interviewed Dr. Pierce about his book. And basically, he would like to get rid of the blacks, Jews, and Hispanics in America and get back, in his opinion, what America has lost. I don't know what he means by that. I guess whitedom or something. At any rate, he says America is disintegrating because of racial mixing. How many of you agree with that? Said that blacks will become rapists, thugs, and cannibals. Unbelievable guy, and this is what a lot of people are following. Did anybody have... And this guy, by the way, is a physicist. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Hello.
Out here in Los Angeles.
Okay, turn your radio off.
You know, something's happening here.
Where?
Well,
L.A.?
yeah.
What?
Well, you see, there's all sorts of news medias here, the TVs. There's so many murders. What's going on in L.A. County?
Yes.
That watching all these stations and everything cannot keep tracks of them.
I know. Thank you. It's not just L.A. It's here, too. Watching the local Las Vegas coverage. You've got to wade through the murders at the beginning of the show each day. And it's quite a wade. Yet they say crime is down. Does it feel like crime is down to you? Maybe it's just media. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Turn your radio off.
Okay. I have a comment about the Chupacabra.
Yes.
I was looking. I play Dungeons and Dragons quite frequently, and I was reading on your webpage, and I happened to look at the picture of it. And flipping through the monster manual, I found a couple pictures that quite resemble the drawing that was sent to you. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in seeing them.
Yes, of course.
Okay. How would I go about getting them to you? Because I don't know if I can fax them or not because it is copyrighted material.
Oh, well, you really shouldn't. I can't advise you, sir, to transfer copyrighted material.
Okay. I can give you information on how to get the book.
All right.
It's by TSR Hobbies, and it's the Monstrous Manual. And on pages 370 and 371, there's two creatures that are used in the game, and combining the two together, you've got your drawing that's on your website.
All right, I'll research it.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take a look. I'm telling you, this Eon 4 website is really weird. I sure would like to know who is behind that. Ostensibly, Apple is sponsoring it. I don't know whether that really means they are, or whether they're just using Apple computers. It's really hard to say. But somebody has gone to an awful lot of trouble, that's for sure. I really can't get over this Turner Diary business. I have not read the Turner Diaries. Have any of you? It apparently... the most amazing thing is, a Jew is going to publish it. He doesn't agree with a bit of it, but he's going to publish it. I think that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. This guy was frightening because he was obviously very intelligent. But then I guess in his own way, so was Hitler. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, Art Bell.
Yes, sir.
Only Art Bell could pry me away from Michael Reagan, one of your competitors.
Nice.
Late night. Actually, I'm calling from Clearwater.
Shouldn't be too hard. If Michael Reagan's on now, he's repeating.
That's true, yeah. We do catch it on tape delay out here.
Yep.
I have a couple of theories on your little arts parts there.
Oh, yes.
Now, if they say the Illuminati, you'll have to pardon me for ignorance. I didn't take chemistry in school. That's public education for you, but if the parts are aluminum, you say that they're supposed to weigh 97 milligrams, but they actually weigh 160 something?
Yeah, in other words, they did initial testing, and they did spectrograph, they did electron scanning microscope and all of that, and it came back 99.9%, whatever it was, aluminum.
Right.
What they call 1100 aluminum in the industry. Now, the size is 6 millimeters by 6 millimeters by 1 millimeter thick. If it's 1100 aluminum, it should weigh exactly 97 milligrams.
All right.
But guess what? It weighs 160. Now, that's damn near double.
Right. I have a couple of theories. One of them is that if this aluminum is definitely from another world, it is quite possible that in this other world they have a different gravitational density, different atmospheric density, so that when they work with aluminum, when it's over there, everything works like it's supposed to. But when it comes over here, it weighs more because our gravity on Earth is more.
Well, look,
that may be one thing you can, one possibility.
Anything is possible, sir, or there might be something else inside, but it would have to be a horrible alloy indeed. They cut one of them open, and they said it appeared to be aluminum throughout. If that's true, and if the center, which I have authorized to be tested, one destructive test, tests out to be 100% aluminum as well, then they've got themselves a most serious mystery.
Right, that's why I come up with this theory. Perhaps maybe that could explain it. If maybe a physicist is listening out there, they could better explain that. Another theory possibly is that I also know that if you either take away or attach protons or neutrons or electrons to an element, their atomic structure stays pretty much the same, but there's a different volume and weight and mass.
Right.
And so you can come up with the same aluminum, but different atomic structure, and so it would weigh differently.
Right. Yeah, anything's possible. I appreciate the call, sir. Linda Howe called me up this last weekend, all excited. She said, it just can't be. She said the scientists went back and measured the pieces again to be very sure of what he was saying with regard to their size because of the relationship to the weight. And he came back puzzled. So now more tests must be done. And it may be that although it's unlikely, that it would be just a bad alloy. But there was not even one little molecular piece of an alloy detected in all the testing done on the outside. So we've got a real mystery here. We'll see, and I'll let you know. But the story continues and the plot thickens. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, this is Monterey Dave, the economist.
Yes.
How are you doing tonight?
I am fine.
Regarding your last caller, the specific gravity of the aluminum should not vary according to the outside temperature, air pressure, and gravitational pull. The molecular structure will still be the same.
Well, you would think so, and you would think the elements would be identical.
So on Earth, it should be identical to aluminum 1100, like you're saying. But when you go to Russia, regarding another topic, don't go near Chernobyl.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's 200 tons of uranium reactor fuel that's been melted into glass. And it's just like the heart of a monster, man. You go near there and that sarcophagus collapses.
Did you happen to see the coverage on this last Sunday of Russia?
No, I didn't, but I've been doing some work in that, and it's just appalling what's going on over there. There's incredible things that I mean, the Chernobyl disaster, just a little bit of that information is starting to leak out.
They should have had a revolution already there.
Yeah, they should.
Based on what I see here, this country should be torn apart.
Oh, yeah, and it is. We're going to be having a revolution here in Santa Cruz, in our Marine Sanctuary. We had a Freeman boater standoff.
Yeah, that's what I heard. A boater with a handgun, right?
Or some kind of weapon, they said.
Well, handgun.
Anyway, all like you've been fretting about with all your militia nutcases out there, what they're thinking, or you're afraid of it, they'd all come to his aid. Well, 50 boats surrounded this lone Freeman boater out there in the bay, and they turned back the Coast Guard. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And so they let him go, and they're probably going to track him down later and punish him, but at least he got away. And he's sitting there saying, don't come near my boat or it's going to be like Waco. There's going to be flames and blood and on and on and on. You're not taking my gun.
Well, I don't think they wanted to take his gun. That wasn't the idea.
Well, they wanted to come on board, and when he threatened them with use of weapons, then they said, well, you're going to, give us your weapons, and we're going to come on board.
Was he inside territorial limits?
Yes, he was in a marine sanctuary, and there was some dispute as to whether or not it was a Coast Guard jurisdiction, but the main factor is that 50 other fishermen's boats came around and surrounded him to such an extent that they outgunned and outmanned the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard had to turn tail and flee.
All right, yes, that is all true. And at least the part about his turning them away is certainly true. Said, I'm sticking to my constitutional rights. Now, I don't really know what his constitutional rights are at sea, inside the limits. It seems to me if he would be subject to Coast Guard authority, that he would have to allow a boarding. I'm not really sure. I don't know enough about the laws of the sea to be able to tell you, but I do know he held them off. The story on 60 Minutes Sunday about Russia was one of the more unbelievable things I ever saw. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. How can this country not be in full-fledged revolution? And remember, this country, described on Sunday, still has 50,000 strategic or at least nuclear weapons, with many of those being strategic, meaning they can push a button and 20 or 30 minutes later, nuclear hell rains down here. So you've got to bear that in mind as you look at the condition of Russia. Elections next month. The likely outcome, a return to communism. You don't hear many people saying much about it. But Boris Yeltsin is way far behind. He may be able to cut a deal, but barring that possibility, Russia may well go back to communism beginning next month. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, this is Ed from Southern California.
Hello, Ed.
A couple of things. First, about those scientists wanting to dig up the bodies that were killed by the Spanish flu.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Not a good idea. We have enough problems, and if they happen to slip up, we're going to have even more. Sounds like. I know there's a disease out here called valley fever, and it's not that lethal, but whenever they dig up an old body in a graveyard here, sometimes it...
I mean, they're actually doing this so they can get to the lungs of these people thought to have died of this disease and revive this virus. Revive the virus, and suppose it got loose.
That's it. They can say, well, it's going to be like the, I think it's Andromeda strain type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, you had Brad Stagger on Saturday. I tried to reach you, but I couldn't get
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday, okay. He had something in his book, one of his books one time about the Forest of Lost Children. And that was about the Angeles Forest area here. About children, that mysterious disappearances there. And he said, I believe, something about time warps being these mountains from here. So if anybody could give me more information on it, or did he have an address that people could write to?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And no, I don't have it handy, but I appreciate the call, sir. The Brad Steiger show on Greenland Sunday was excellent. If you want a copy of it, or for that matter, the Mitchell Hoagland debate, or anything we do with a guest, or any Greenland program, you can get copies by calling 1-800-917-4278. That's 1-800-917-4278. With regard to this plan to dig up these people frozen in the tundra with the 1918 epidemic that was called, I think they called it Spanish fly, not flu at the time. At any rate, they say it will, quote, be done with the greatest respect and dignity, adding that extreme safety precautions will be taken so the microbe will not be unleashed again. I'm still not convinced it is what I would call a good plan. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Going once.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, turn your radio off.
Okay, it's off.
That's good. Now speak.
Okay. I just had some information about the Russian topic.
Yes, sir?
And I'm an environmental geologist, and I've done some research on the subject and had a good book for him to read.
Really?
And
Him? Well, him is me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're on the air.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
What? You're sorry to be on the air?
No.
Oh, okay.
Misunderstood.
Well, now you're out of breath, so if you want to stay on the air, you're going to have to hold on.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, you won't hear anything during the break. Don't let it worry you. By the way, yes, we do have Vivian on this morning. If you want to call and see me do the show, she's up and running.
This is Premier Networks. That was Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM on this Somewhere in Time.
Thanks to the caller who waited. You're back on the air, sir.
Yes. The book I was calling about is called Ecocide in the USSR.
Yes.
And it's by Murray Feshbach and Alfred Friendly Jr.
Well, it is ecocide going on there. Can you imagine 1 out of 4 children born with mental illness?
It's kind of frightening, isn't it?
Frightening. It's the decimation of an entire country. I mean, they are actually committing national suicide.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Kind of puts the environmental fight in this country in perspective, though, doesn't it?
40% of all babies born with mental defects, maternity wards half empty, 2 abortions for every birth, 800,000 more dying than born every year. Life expectancy to fall to, has already fallen from 65 to 58. There should be a revolution going on there. And if there isn't one, there's going to be one. And when there is, I wonder what they're going to do with all those nuclear weapons.
Who knows? But I mean, I guess the gist of this book was discussing how the economy and so forth could not rebound because of these restraints that have been put on it. And some of the figures they gave as of 1990, and these are Russian estimates, were between 15 and 17% of the gross national product of that country.
Mm-hmm.
And, 60 billion rubles a year just for environmental abuse. It goes on and on and on. Goes on about Chernobyl, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but you remember the pictures on TV. You see you saw the people in the suits going in and out, and the foreign minister that was in charge or the scientific supervisor for that site stated that every one of them are dead now that you saw on TV, between 5,000 and 7,000. And anyone that was exposed more than a half an hour to that radiation at the site is now dead.
Well, I heard that, but I also heard that those who were exposed in a wider way, while there has been an increase in some kinds of cancer, mainly in children, that they have not had the kind of cancer rates they thought or expected or should have had as a result of that kind of contamination. But nationwide, I mean, forget Chernobyl, the real contamination is occurring because of pollution. So serious that 40% of the children are born with birth defects. Can you imagine that? In areas of industrial pollution, 40%, mostly mental defects. Their population is dying, their country is dying. One woman said, "It is democracy. It's killing us." So what do you think they'll do? next month when they have the elections. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Art?
Hello.
Yeah, Art, this is Ed in Spokane.
Yes.
I've got a question about the chupacabra.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody think what kind of noise it makes, or does it make
Yes,
noise or anything?
they say it makes a very, very loud hissing noise, kind of like a jet plane, almost.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. That's all I've heard. Chupacabra reports coming down from everywhere. Art, I just left the page for Eon 4. It is incredibly well done. Too well done for something like it to be real. It's pretty interesting that the current mission commander is supposedly a space shuttle astronaut / pilot. Should be easy to verify. That is, if it's a public mission, I would add. In the image archive, I'm a little concerned with the quality of the images transmitted back from the sentient location. They would presumably be sent digitally, but they show typical analog signal degradations, lines, etc. I don't believe that digital signals would be degraded in this manner. Conclusion, too slick to be the real thing. From Tom. I agree, Tom. It is very slick. That's why I put the link in. I've never seen anything like it. Now, maybe it is some sort of slick, weird promotion for a movie. Maybe it's somebody's idea of a joke. Whatever it is, it's very, very well done. Yeah, you'll find it right at the top of my webpage. And I suggest you go take a look and tell me what you think. It is a project that's supposedly going on at Area 51, adjacent to me here. It is supposedly revealing to the world that we have made contact. Go take a look. Eon 4. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Art, how you doing?
Okay.
Hey, this is Mike in Central Texas.
Yes, Mike.
Listen, I really enjoyed, I loved the Cornell interview that you did on Friday, or a couple Fridays ago.
Dr. Cornell, yes.
Yeah, really thought it was great. Has anybody called in about the DCX rocket yet?
Oh, yes. I mean, people have commented on it. That's a rocket the doctor said was virtually designed in his living room.
Yeah, anyways, they did a test on it on Saturday. Anybody called in about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about the fire, and I just woke up, so.
You just woke up, okay.
Yeah. So, but I think that's incredible. I mean, normally if you've got a fire and or explosions, that's it, That's it, but now it has become sort of a wink and a nod, like,
yep.
Geez, this is how good our design is. I think it's fascinating.
Yep, well, that makes two of us.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. Yes, very interesting indeed. And I want to know more about that craft. East of the Rockies, you're on the air, top of the morning. Hello? Yes, sir. Where are you?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Baton Rouge, all right. Well, you're on the air. Turn your radio off.
Okay.
That's good. Get that radio off.
My name is Dmitry. I'm from Russia. I studied Louisiana State University. I will graduate this summer, and I'm going to law school. And after I get my law degree, hopefully in 3 years, I'm going back to Russia. And I believe that the future of Russia depends on people like me, not the people who just can't take care of themselves and their children and their...
Dmitry, did you see 60 Minutes on Sunday?
Oh, sorry, I did not.
Did you hear what I said about it, though?
Yes, I heard about what he said.
It is far worse than anybody thought. I mean, it's really the suicide of a country.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. Journalists, they tend to look for the worst facts they can find,
Well, they sure found some bad ones.
Oh, yeah, because, people in Moscow and St. Petersburg especially live very well.
Yes, I know that is true in St. Petersburg, but that is also because of the tourism there. The question is about the rest of the country, and specifically about Moscow.
Now, what about Moscow?
Well, they showed a number of the hospitals in Moscow. They they gave us stats about how many Russians are dying versus those being born. There are now 2 abortions in Russia for every live birth.
Well,
how long has it been since you've been home?
I've been living in the United States for a year and a half, but my relatives, they all live in Russia, and I talk to them every week, and they actually are very optimistic. My father is a lawyer, and he says the situation is getting better every day. The business life is reviving, and many people are actually better off now than they were during the communism. Especially those people who can work, who are willing to work. Unfortunately, the welfare system that existed during the communism era in the former Soviet Union, it actually destroyed in people the desire to work hard, to earn hard life. But the people in the United States, they...
Well, yes, we know that. Believe me, we know what communism did. But it looks now like the election next month will bring a communist back.
Well, but you said that the Yeltsin is trailing Zyuganov pretty badly, but as far as I know, he's ahead in most polls, 1 or 2 points ahead in almost every poll.
That is not true.
That is not true?
That is not true.
Wow. Well, in this case, well, I don't know what to say since my mother told me...
Mr. Yeltsin is in single digits.
Maybe you're talking about Mr. Gorbachev now. Mr. Gorbachev is really in single digits.
No. Mr. Yeltsin is in single digits.
That's big news to me.
All right, well, I'm sorry to be the one to have to give it to you, but it is true. And right now, the communist is way out ahead. What Mr. Yeltsin is trying to do is to make a deal, to put together some sort of a coalition government. Whether that'll come off or not, who knows? If half of what they said on 60 Minutes was true about Russia, that nation is teetering on the edge of complete disaster. Now, there's nothing like seeing for yourself, and I am going to go there, and I am bound and determined to see for myself. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Mr. Bell.
Yes.
My name is Elizabeth. I call from WSCR, Sterling, Illinois.
Well, welcome.
I called you before. How about Russia? My husband was in Russian prison. My father was in Russian prison during the Second World War, after the Second World War.
Yes.
It is absolutely true. Communism is coming back. My husband never talked about prison because he couldn't. He had terrible nightmares.
I'm sure he did.
And he told me, honey, remember one thing before he died. Communist is a communist, and he always will be a communist, and Russia gonna stay communism no matter what they tell you.
All right, well, I happen to believe you. I believe that communism is on the way back to Russia. It's a sad thing. It's too bad. It's too bad that they've been unable to make the transition. I'm not exactly sure why it is. Why democracy has not flourished and reached the common person. I guess everything takes time, and I don't think there's going to be enough time for democracy or a representative democracy to take hold in Russia. So I'm very concerned, and I'm glad that I'm going to get over there and get a look pretty soon. I'll come back, and I'll tell you what I found. You just can't depend on news reports. You've got to see for yourself. And I will try to get to some hospitals. I will try and talk to some people who can either verify or knock down what we've heard. I'll let you know. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Jerry in Los Angeles.
Hi, Jerry.
Art, did you hear that the European Union is requiring for buying and selling a mark that you have to have?
Mark of the beast, right?
That's what I think it is.
Do you?
Well, if you take you look at the symbol of the European Union, which is a woman sitting on a beast. I mean, I don't need to have a house to follow me to realize this is a prophecy unfolding right in front of our eyes.
And so what are you going to do about it?
Have a closer relationship with my God.
In that case, you'll be in when the time comes. And many will be out. Right? Because that's all you can do. Everybody has to do their own individual thing. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello. Hello. Ruben. Can barely hear you, Ruben. Speak up.
Is this Art?
Yes.
Yes, this is Ruben in San Antonio.
Right.
Yeah, I had a few things to talk about.
Talk.
One of them was the Chupacabra.
Yes.
That was with that guy they called last week. He was talking about, it might be from Brazil, burning down the rainforest, something they let go.
Something that came out of the rainforest, yes.
Yes.
Or the swamps of Puerto Rico, who knows?
And the other thing was, you read the Bible?
Yes.
In the Bible, can you find any place in there that says anything about dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs?
Yes.
No, but you can find areas where it talks about unusual, weird creatures that will be about in the final days. One might put the Chupacabra in such a place. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Oh, hello, Art. This is Patrick in Portland, Oregon.
Hi, Patrick.
Turn off my radio here.
Yes.
Yeah, couple of things. I've discovered your show in the last couple of weeks, and it's a terrific show.
I have had more people saying that to me, that they found it in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, actually, I discovered it via your website. So, yeah, because it's connected with, there's so many connections to other websites.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, anyway.
Be sure to go up there and look at this Beyond 4 and let me know.
Okay, I'll have a quick look at it. Usually when I see something like that that's probably fictional, masquerading as true, I usually kind of...
Well, that may be, but at least take a look.
Yeah. All right. Just briefly here. Really enjoyed the debate between Hoagland and Edgar Mitchell.
Yes.
Do you have any idea when they'll be back on again together on your show? Have they given any indication?
Well, Richard is now on the way to England, and Dr. Mitchell has received some new material. So when he has digested those...
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, good. And second, regarding the death of Admiral Borda.
Yes. If you were a journalist and you got onto that story, would you run it or not?
I think I would, but first of all, I think this question we're focusing on now of whether or not they should have pursued the story and aired it.
Yes.
Kind of presupposes that he did indeed commit suicide. Now you said you were fairly satisfied that he did.
Yes, I am.
I don't, of course, claim to know for sure one way or the other, but
well,
I, on the other hand, am not.
Yes, before you make an allegation otherwise, do you have one scintilla of proof that it was not a suicide?
Right.
Do you?
No, I do not, and I'm aware of that. One thing I would wonder about, I know they've been reporting that there were two suicide notes that he left.
That's right. One for the enlisted men.
Right, and of which a part has been made public, and
right.
The other one hasn't been read from at all, or hasn't been made public. One thing I would like to know is whether those notes were written in his own handwriting, or whether, on the other hand, they were typed, or perhaps written out in all caps, something like that. And if they were typed, were they signed? I mean, I would certainly be satisfied if it was clear that they were written in his own handwriting.
Well, what would make me suspicious is if we found in one of them a paragraph that said, and by the way, I cannot believe the innocence of the Clintons. Look, thank you. I have no reason to believe it's anything but a suicide. Now, what I am slightly suspicious about is that there may be more to it, folks, than we've been led to believe. In other words, there may be reasons beyond the medals that he wore. I'm going to screen some calls between now and the end of the news at the top of the hour. Again, referring to the 60 Minutes piece on the Turner Diaries by Dr. William Pierce, a PhD, a physicist, a man who has written virtually the Bible for the extreme right wing politically in America. He's regarded that way. A man who believes that we should get rid of all the blacks, Hispanics, and Jews and get back the America we lost. A man who believes that America is disintegrating because of racial mixing. What I would like is somebody who agrees with Mr. Pierce. And so if you agree with Mr. Pierce and these two statements that I just gave you that are attributed to him, call me at area code 702-727-1222. If you sincerely agree, if you are a student of the Turner Diaries, then I want to hear from you. Everybody else, hold off on that line. I'm going to be screening calls during the news to get somebody willing to argue in a debate, somebody who agrees with the Turner Diaries. If that's you, call me now at 702-727-1222, and we will have a debate. Be right back.
The trip back in time continues with Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM. More Somewhere in Time coming up. Coast to Coast AM from May 20th, 1996.
It is indeed. I'm Art Bell, and we're still looking for somebody. I've had many wannabes, but nobody who actually wants to argue the point. 60 Minutes did a big piece on the Turner Diaries. Dr. William Pierce, they interviewed Dr. Pierce. The Turner Diaries are coming out once again. The Turner Diaries are a collection of, well, it's kind of a... Actually, it's a fiction that unfortunately today appears to have become reality with the explosion in Oklahoma City. At any rate, Dr. Pierce Sunday said that, or agreed, that his philosophy basically says that we have got to get rid of the blacks, Hispanics, and Jews and get back the America we have lost. Quoting 60 Minutes. He believes that America is disintegrating because of racial mixing. Do you agree with that? If you agree with that, call me at area code 702-727-1222. If you don't agree with that, don't call me on that number, because you'll just be wasting your money. I'm looking for somebody who basically agrees with those incredible tenets. If I find that person, we will do a debate. And for this purpose, I am screening calls, so it'd be an absolute waste of your money to call that number otherwise. But if you agree with those statements, call now, 702-727-1222. If you disagree, any other number will do. So, in a moment, I think we'll have ourselves a little debate on that exact topic. Should be interesting. agree with the Turner Diaries?
Well, I haven't read the Turner Diaries, but his point about disintegration I agree with.
You do?
Yes.
What about his point about getting rid of the blacks, Hispanics, and Jews to get back, quote, the America we lost?
Well, I'm afraid I didn't see the whole interview. I just saw the excerpt on the late night news.
Doesn't matter. I don't.
He means forced, repatriation and all that stuff. I don't see any way to do that. I would just argue that we have to stop government policies that do things racially. That's what I would say we have to do.
Well, that isn't what he said. So I guess you don't qualify.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, what he said was we should get rid of the blacks, Jews, and Hispanics to get back the America we lost, and that America is disintegrating because of race mixing. If you agree with that, then call me at 702-727-1222. And again on that line, you're on the air. Hello.
I have not read the Turner Diaries either, but I do believe that there was a problem with minorities in this country in terms of that if you took...
So I read the two statements. Do you agree with those?
And those were?
Well, you weren't listening, so we'll just keep screening. This is why I screen for these, because either people aren't listening or paying attention or something. I don't know what. Again on that line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I agree with him.
You do.
Yes.
And you're willing to argue them on the air?
You betcha, Kimosabi.
Right. What is your first name?
Douglas.
Douglas. Okay. Douglas, you're on. Hold on just a second while I find somebody to debate you, all right?
Okay.
All right, that's Douglas, and he agrees with the statements made in the Turner Diaries. Now we're going to screen calls and find somebody who radically disagrees, and we will then have a debate. And let me see, do you disagree with the Turner Diaries statement?
Yes, I do.
You do. Where are you?
I'm calling from California.
And what is it you disagree with?
I disagree with the racial aspect of it.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You don't think we ought to get rid of...
I don't think that they're the problem.
You don't, huh?
No.
All right. Let's find out why Douglas thinks they are. Douglas, you're on the air, and what is our other caller's name?
Curtis.
Curtis. It's Curtis and Douglas. All right. Be my guest. The air is yours.
Okay. What is your problem with the racial aspect that we're talking about here from the
There's no need to be antagonistic. It's not my problem. If you're trying to cast aspersions upon me, make this an ad hominem argument.
Okay, well, he hasn't said anything to you yet.
No, what he said was, what is your problem?
Oh, I see.
So, I'll tell you, if you're asking what my thesis is, I'll tell you what it is. It's Darwin's theory. 100 years ago, not only Darwin, but nearly all of his prominent contemporaries agreed that there was a superior race, the white race. And there's scientific reasons, there's all kinds of theories. Myself, before I read this just recently, I thought there might be some reason. And it seems to me that there could be many reasons. But one of the reasons is that the people in Northern Europe had to be brighter to survive. By comparison, in Africa, where perhaps the weather doesn't change, I'm only talking about the paradigms here, one only needs to learn how to hunt to survive. In the winter you hunt, in the summer you hunt, in the spring you hunt, in the fall you hunt. By comparison, in Northern Europe, in the summer you hunt, in the winter you die, unless you're a little bit brighter than that. I think by long-term action of this sort of activity, the weak got weeded out. This is Darwin's theory, survival of the fittest. And I've studied the history of this country. There are some trends, and they are observable in the larger cities like Los Angeles.
Sir, it sounds like you have a psychological problem. Sounds like you have too much time on your hands. I don't see what the problem is. First of all, I'm from Generation X. I'm young. I'm only 27, and I don't see racism. I don't see color. I don't you're from a different generation than I am, obviously, and you know you're a product of the way you were raised. But however, you're an adult. You're an adult. You make this decision. You're able to know from right from wrong.
All right, now wait a minute. One at a time, or we can't hear anybody.
I only developed this theory in the last 2 years. I'm telling you again. Let's not make this an ad hominem argument. Don't attack me. I must be wrong.
I'm not attacking you. You have a psychological problem. What you're saying.
You don't even know about my psychology. That's an ad hominem argument. You don't know what that is.
You need to check yourself.
What?
You need to check yourself, okay? You heard me. I'm not stuttering. Am I stuttering? I think you have a psychological problem. First of all, I don't see racism in this country. I don't see why this country can't work together. I don't know why this country's taking 2 steps back.
I think you're not
based on racism.
Hold it. One at a time. Let him answer. You said you don't see why the races can't work together in this country. How do you answer that?
They can work together in this country. That's not the issue. The issue wasn't can races work together. The question is, should they be sent out to make this country better?
Well, who's going to make that decision? You ain't making that decision.
The question
is the right race.
That wasn't the issue. Who should make the decision?
I think we're misinterpreting history
the issue quite clearly. Should they be moved out? I say yes, they should.
Should they be moved out? Well, you know what? You're not speaking any substance. First of all, that's not going to happen, so you might as well eliminate
that
this.
Wasn't what Art asked.
Shall we move them out? We don't have control.
No. He's really quite correct. That is the premise of the Turner Diaries, that blacks, Hispanics, and Jews be moved out of America.
I understand. I watched 60 Minutes.
Moreover, America's disintegrating because of race mixing.
I don't think that we should point the finger at ethnicity. I think everybody in this country is responsible for what happens in this country. We can't just point the finger at ethnicity. I don't understand why the human race here can't work together homogeneously.
Well, let him answer that. Why can't they?
Because the white